Was a battle of the sexes always inevitable? Or did we create a rift ourselves through all the things said and done between us? Perhaps it doesn't matter about your gender, but your words, your impact on those around you, even to the point of when you are gone. The trauma can do so much when all of the remembered acts and hurtful words against you seem to start looking the same. This is Two Takes, and this is One Shot, analysis of men. Spoilers are ahead. I know for a fact that there are many reviews on this film that render it against men in general. There is a dominance of male toxicity, sure, but not so subtle hints towards Adam and Eve and the original sin of eating the apple from the tree of knowledge. However, have you considered that the men in this film, if we're going to go with this religious theory for a moment, were actually reacting to what Eve or Harper has done, rather than what is Eve let loose in the world? We could go further, lead into the paganism aspects of what the naked man means, the rebirth of the many men from each other. We could conclude that each act of misogyny is repeated throughout each manifestation, each rebirth, that shows each generation doing the exact same thing each time. Or we could explore it in a different way. Because I'm going to be honest, I have a feeling the religious aspect of this has been explained a lot elsewhere. And so I begin with the director, Alex Garland. He also directed Annihilation and Ex Machina, and I bring him up because his subject matter often centers on the female experience in different circumstances. Annihilation, following a female cast that succumbed through their own personal trauma within an alien landscape. And Ex Machina, shift the power of oneself through a journey to become more or realize more with futuristic tech. It's not about vices of the sexes against each other, but more of a blending of interactions that presents the vices of oneself. The struggle of a trauma-riddled journey that needs to be taken. And in this installment, instead of futuristic tech or alien life, it's merged with religious pagan symbolism. We are not perfect, and this is the meaning of these stories. Going further, in the realms of men, the men of the village having the same face might imply what many reviewers have deemed a pro-feminist film, as in, the men of the film are the toxic ones, with the female having to endure the hardships of what men can do to the female. And I can understand why many have gone to that conclusion. However, within my viewing, I didn't see that. But let's talk about both, shall we? We can all understand that each male in the village is played by the same man. However, each manifestation plays a different part, if you see what I mean. Each man can be seen as a toxic trait that comes to life. The kid is all about supply and demand. If the bare minimum is not given, he lashes out in hurtful words. The vicar is sexually repressed and sees Harper as this woman who has flared up his fetishes against his will. Her sexuality makes him want her, and so he blames her for it. The policeman deems Harper as becoming hysterical for no reason over the naked man being released without charge. The pub hooligan finds his power in Harper's fear and thus uses this to his advantage when he is in her home. And finally, the renter that shows Harper around the house. He is what you call a #nice guy. Nice and friendly, but really what is hidden in this expectancy of some kind of reward for doing the bare minimum for the opposite sex. Now, we have all come into contact, men and women alike, who have these traits. We could go even further and say that her female friend Riley on the phone is toxic in a way against anyone besides Harper. I guess it could be seen as being an overprotective friend. However, instantly expressing the need for violence against anyone is a little hasty, especially when it comes to axes and acts of castration. The men in this film are all a faceless act of misogyny against Harper. Their actions become an important note here, rather than the fact that they all look the same and Harper doesn't seem fazed by this. But then, if you think about it, this merges perfectly with my theory, which isn't about this film having the message of all men suck, the end. Harper experienced a lot of trauma, having a fight with her husband James, and him threatening to kill himself as she asked for a divorce. In the end, whether by accident or intentional, although I feel it was an accident, James did end his life by falling to his death with Harper watching it. However, going back to the argument, James holds these toxic traits that the men in the village represent, using them against Harper way before she sets foot in the village. So my theory is that, yes, all of these men in the village are literal manifestations of toxic traits that Harper has already been subjected to within her relationship with her husband. They have materialized through trauma, through the guilt, through the questioning of whether James did end his life intentionally or by accident. This is all Harper's trauma coming to life, manifesting in this manner that some viewers might think is an attack on gender, when really it isn't. This is Harper's view on the world. A perhaps tainted and skewed one, but one we follow nonetheless. And with someone who is within the moments of self-reflection of their husband's death, of course their view on the world is going to be darker, sinister even. And this is what we see. This is what we follow, and the outcome, in Alex Garland's case, is a fantastically twisted one. For someone already in grieving, in this wanting of letting go of someone they stopped loving, but still did, it's a huge burden of mixed emotions. And so, in many aspects, Harper is battling what is happening emotionally, whilst we watch battle what is manifesting physically. The film doesn't have the intention of showing the audience that men suck. Some men do, like James, and because of the many ways of toxicity found, they're all represented by the same face, the same person, because they all come from the same source, James. This is trauma playing out against Harper, and the only way for her to get through it is to fight it, whether there are religious paganism at play or whether it is a battle of the sexes. It really doesn't matter. What matters is that we are following the story of someone struggling, like we did in Annihilation, like we found in Ex Machina. We have forgotten that these stories are of personal struggle with outside influences at play, and within a person's struggle, their viewpoint, like an unreliable protagonist in some stories, is twisting what we see. And like I said earlier, these stories show that we are not perfect, that trauma is an important part of healing, and it doesn't matter what sex you are.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed what was said, then please support the show from my Patreon. And if you want to know what's happening next, follow my Instagram. To know my day-to-day thoughts, follow my Twitter. And if you want to read what was said instead, then follow my blog, linked elsewhere. With your support, I can only make this better, so again, thank you from the bottom of my heart.